let's take a look at this. Apparently, this involves gacha games. Could it affect Genshin? I don't know. The law finally caught up. Every AAA is in trouble. Well, I don't really care about AAA. Maybe I do. Let's see.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's video is a true bombshell for the games industry. This is one of those things that can have true impact, so let me explain.
Okay.
What just happened is the European Union just rewrote the rules on premium currency in games. Of course, that's the home of Ubisoft, of CD Projekt, of DICE, of Remedy, and so many other companies.
And
interesting. The new rules that they have just laid out could change gaming utterly. Actually change the games that you play. So you know those bundles where you've got to buy more currency than the item that you want costs? Or perhaps the idea of limited time events.
Oh god, we're getting into the gacha already, dude. I do have to say real quick, this game, dude, AFK Journey, actually very fun. I've done sponsors for it in the past, but I played this game for months upon months, dude. It's so fun.
Or perhaps the idea of limited time events. Of no refunds and digital purchases. These are all being fought against by legislators. And when the EU takes action, it's a large enough block that it can reverberate around the world.
Really?
And as evidence, how's that USB-C charger on our phone working out? There's a lot to talk about.
Wait, what does that mean exactly? Wait, my USB-C charger is going great. Wait, what?
Enough block that it can reverberate around the world. And as evidence, how's that USB-C charger on our phone working out?
It's
There's
fine.
A lot to talk about.
Okay, I'm confused.
This one could actually, honestly, be pretty good. Oddly enough,
could be
you've got
good?
EU legislation to thank for the standardized phone charger situation, and for many, the ability to play ROMs on their iPhone. But now we seem to have EU legislation to thank for premium currency being threatened. So here's what went on. In September...
What would happen to games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail and Wuthering Waves if you could not include premium game currency? They just die, right? Those games would literally just die.
2024, the EU proposed the Digital Fairness Act that was targeting all the practices online that make using digital services miserable. And in particular, it called out dark patterns in video games as one of the targets. And that's basically the gross manipulative techniques that trick and strong-arm money out of people. Obviously, especially applying to people who are not yet adults.
I'm curious if this law as well, though, is just for the European Union. Because if that's the case, the games will still do just fine. Right? Because you still got the whole US base, you've still got UK, you've still got China and Asia in general. You've got so many other countries that are not part of the European Union that are going to keep funding these games. And I'll keep it a buck, guys. The quality might dip a little bit, but even if it was just Asia, these games would be just fine.
This is fairly weighty because in the EU alone, games are obviously big business. Revenues have been going up in the EU. Online game spending in 2018 represented 74% of turnover coming from online revenue, and 83% by 2022. That's crazy. All of those fun, dark patterns actually working and getting digital currency money out of people. But those dark patterns target the most vulnerable people the most. And there's no one more vulnerable in the eyes of the law than children. Children who spend an average of €31 a month on online games, according to data from Video Games Europe. Well, that's actually went down from 2023. I guess that's good. Everyone's feeling a little bit of the economic pinch, but it's not stopped the EU from taking action.
Is that good? I mean, it's good that they're stopping to spend money, but it's not good that everybody's feeling the economic pinch, right? Because everything's increasing in price lately, dude. Everything.
To protect kids, basically, from predatory premium currency models. And in situations like this, there's often a great offender, right? That is held up as an example of something doing everything wrong. So...
Okay. I do have to keep it a buck here. I don't know if this is just chance that Genshin is on the screen right now, but if we're saying Genshin is the biggest offender of this, I think that's incorrect. I would argue Star Rail is doing far, far worse things right now, especially in regards to making people feel like they need to top up for certain things by making, you know, an anniversary pay-to-win event. It's not. I disagree. EA exists. Guys, I'm talking about fucking gacha games. I'm talking about the gacha game side of things, obviously. EA has always been dreadful. Absolutely terrible. And there's also other MMOs and stuff out there that are also just as bad. Like you just said, like, yeah, RuneScape did, or Jagex, I guess, did some dastardly things, I guess a couple of years ago. Can't forget about the FIFA Ultimate Team stuff. I don't even know what that is. I don't follow sports games at all, because every single year it seems like a recycled version of the game before, and maybe you get some new boots and a different player on a different team. I don't understand it, but if you enjoy it, power to you.
You might wonder, is it an Activision game? Is it Ultimate Team from the EA football games? Maybe it was Roblox. No, today, it's a game about horses. It's called Star Stable. You've probably never heard of it.
What?
But if this all does turn out good, we'll have the horse girls to thank. This is Star Stable Online. It comes from a Swedish developer called Star Stable Entertainment, and it is the game that may have just rewritten rules and monetization in the EU. So, yeah, thanks, horse girls.
Okay.
Now, it turns out that Star Stable just uses all of the premium currency tactics in the book, which makes it a pretty awesome example, right? Especially because it is targeted at a younger audience. So, in March 24, the Swedish Consumer Agency filed a complaint with the EU-wide Consumer Protection Cooperation Network. That's a mouthful. And that complaint alleged that Star Stable Entertainment were targeting children and using harmful commercial practices that breached EU consumer regulations. Now, the findings corroborated much of those allegations. They found that the game made direct appeals to children in their ads, that they were using pressuring techniques like FOMO, which is particularly...
See, I think that's incredibly cringe too, right? Can we agree on that? Like, direct appeals to children in advertisements? Like, I don't know. I can't imagine what that even means without seeing the advertisements. It'd be like if Genshin were like, Klee is the perfect character for children to play because she's so fucking easy. You should buy her. Like, I don't know. It's just weird, dude.
Despicable when it's not, on adults. And there was a lack of transparency on purchases and loads more things.
Interesting.
I mean, here's an example of one that's particularly rough. They were responsible for influencers promoting the game to kids without any disclosure of the spending risk. So, in short, it's bloody well damning. Star Stable Entertainment now have a month to address complaints and propose solutions with their game, but what matters for our purposes today is the Consumer Protection Cooperation Network, we can just call the CPCN. They have laid out what they want. So I'll spell it out via an example.
Money.
This is what should happen in the ideal world. You, dear gamer, want to buy yourself a new horse. You see that your new horse costs 300 star coins. The store tells you that's around £5, so it just lets you buy 300 coins exactly. You buy exactly what you need for the horse, rather than the current bundles that exist.
Bro, this really annoyed me back in Overwatch days when, for example, the latest Pog skin, it'd be like, and they did this shit on purpose, you could tell, dude. It cost like 2,700 coins, but there was no bundle to get 2,700 coins. You had to get the 3,000 coin bundle, which means you're paying more. Oh god, dude, I hate that so fucking much. I hate that so much.
200 coins or 400 coins, meaning that you always have to buy with some wastage, which just ends up giving the company more money.
Yeah.
So in short, no obfuscation bullshit.
And then it's like, hey, if you've got 300 coins left over, there's no other skins in that shop for 300 coins. They're 500. So then you have to top up again, but you can't do a 200 coin top up. It's another 500 top up. So then you're always in that deficit. It's like the biggest type of FOMO there is, dude.
Tactics.
It's insane.
And worst of all for these companies, this will have them bloody well shaking.
Yep.
You'd have to have a refund policy, both for the coins and the horse. And none of this would be pitched as a limited time event where you have got to get the thing right now. So that's an example then of how these policies should be applied, and each is indeed a massive win for consumers. But that would not matter if this amounted to nothing. You could look at all this and think, right, so some Swedish horse game has got a slap on the wrist. No, it's more than that. This seems to have backbone. So here's the big important bit. These solutions are the backbone of what the European Consumer Organization calls key principles for trustworthy gaming environments. And these could cause huge problems for anyone who is using premium currency. When I say this could shake the foundations of the game industry economy, I absolutely mean it.
Interesting.
So these, which I'm going to spell out for you, are the minimum requirements for purchasing and using virtual currencies.
Wait, so these are the actual principles, the actual minimum requirements now?
And what's neat is the philosophy behind them. So the CPC...
Steel Lily, thank you for the Prime.
Virtual currencies in the EU.
Thank you, thank you.
And what's neat is the philosophy behind them. So the CPCN considers these premium currencies as an equivalent to the real money that is used to purchase them. And
That's
that
good.
for them means that they are just as worthy of legal scrutiny. So you can see how that is, in a way, a mindset shift that paves the way for actually treating these as they are.
Okay, I'm very curious why this wasn't a thing to begin with. If you buy a currency with real life currency, why wouldn't that currency be treated like real money? Actually, you know what? Now I'm thinking about that. Bro, that's kind of crazy. Because, like, do y'all remember back in the day when you play MMOs like RuneScape and stuff? Back in the day, you couldn't buy gold with real money. You couldn't do that. But you could get scammed in the game by, like, trimming armor and stuff, right? Like, give me your armor to trim and I'll give you the trimmed armor. And they just log off with the armor or log off with the gold that you'd pay them. Like, nowadays, you can buy the gold in the game. You can do that. So would that be treated under the same kind of thing? Like, if somebody robs, I don't know, $1,000 worth of in-game gold in an MMO from you and scams you, could they be prosecuted?
So just think about the last game that you played that had a premium currency in it. Whatever that game is, I want you to keep it in mind.
That's the problem then, because it's not a premium currency in those games.
I'm now going to go through the various different practices that this targets. So, prices for premium currency packs that are a little more than the available product. So you've got to buy extra coins, extra gems, whatever it may be. Obfuscation of how much currency is worth by always pairing currency with other items or multiple currency options. As an example, I think World of Warcraft may actually fall for that because
fucking Spider-Man. Look at him, man. On the ceiling. He's been in here for a few days now. But this is a child compared to brother. Oh my fucking god. Hold on, we'll get back into this video in just a second. Let me show you this fucking picture. Oh my god, it makes me want to throw up. Look at this fucking one. Oh my god. It looks so much smaller on this picture. Oh my god. 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 Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. It's fucking massive. It's humongous. Viv got a picture of it on my laptop bag. Look at this ugly motherfucker, dude. Oh my god, it's massive. Sorry, I just had to interrupt the show for that very important announcement.
It includes Trader's Tender in one.
Sorry, let me rewind a bit.
A little more than the available product, so you've got to buy extra coins, extra gems, whatever it may be. Obfuscation of how much currency is worth by always pairing currency with other items or multiple currency options.
Yeah.
As an example, I think World of Warcraft may actually fall for that because it includes Trader's Tender in one of the new mount bundles. Another one, a complete lack of a refund option for making currency purchases or even for in-game items. So there would have to be a refund policy. That's something none of us are used to in these games.
A refund policy for in-game items is absolutely insane, by the way. I think it'd be a good thing, but it's something that I've never realized doesn't exist for a lot of games. That is kind of funny.
Also, FOMO practices to encourage buying, those are going to be looked at, so some of those may no longer be allowed. And all of these practices are now something that the EU
Oh my god. This is literally just fucking reminded me. The guy the other day that we interviewed in-game random co-op, I was like, if you could make one change to Genshin, what would it be? And the dude was like, I'd refund my character to get my pity back. Oh my god, it might be a fucking thing. No shot, that is the change that is going to be made. Out of all of those changes, that is the one that I fucking laughed at. Bruh.
May no longer be allowed. And
oh my god.
All of these practices are now something that the EU can hold against developers and publishers. Even more so if the parental controls of said game are not up to scratch. So it's less a case of me saying, can you think of any game that falls into those categories? And it's more me saying, can you think of a game that doesn't fall into those criteria? It's fairly humongous, which might indeed be the point here. We know this is something the EU have been thinking about in other circumstances than just Star Stable. As an example, in September 2024, the European Consumer Organization published a report on popular online games. And in that report, they targeted Diablo 4, EA Sports FC 24, Minecraft, Fortnite, and a bunch of others. And it was all about how the virtual currencies work. They were not thrilled on what they found in those games.
I'm sorry. Right? Hold on, I might be out of the loop here. Minecraft has a virtual currency? Like a premium currency?
right? Because many of them, well, they did the same things that, you know, Star Stable did that we do not like. And that straight up means we can say that Electronic Arts and Blizzard Entertainment are being directly targeted by this body. That really is something. So it's no wonder that the BEUC will be holding workshops to help European companies implement these new principles. Because it seems they may actually have to implement them.
Yep.
Everything that they previously thought was acceptable pretty much now isn't. And that, here's the shocking thing, that's not my commentary. That is what the industry response has been, so we know they are shaking in their boots.
Yeah, that's
crazy. It ain't surprising the industry bodies aren't thrilled about this. And a big shout out to one of our Belgrade Games members, Neo Nebulosa, for directing us to this stuff. So the European Game Developers Federation and the Video Games Europe, or two groups basically, they've published a joint statement that expresses their disappointment with the findings. Let's read their statement. Quote, "We are disappointed by the lack of engagement from the CPC network in creating these principles, which introduce new legal theories and misguided interpretations of EU consumer law that will create confusion and disruption for European customers." Sidebar. Oh no, we're going to be disrupted by sort of annoying predatory stuff going away. What an awful disruption. Back to the statement. It will also present a challenge to the industry's future growth and could even deprive millions of consumers access to their favorite games.
I do think that's accurate, to be fair. I think it could definitely present a challenge to the industry's future growth if they're gonna put limits on this. But do I think it's a bad thing? Listen, we get games like The Witcher 3 and the others, to be fair, that don't have any of this shit, and they're fucking phenomenal, and we have a fantastic time. I put more hours into Skyrim than most MMOs that I've played. I don't know, man. I think it's doable, you know? I think it's doable.
Now that last bit is the interesting thing. So, understandably, right, these groups, representing the most powerful players in the industry, did quite like things the way that they were. Change is dangerous, especially to the bottom line, and especially change like this. But in a way, they're not inherently wrong. It is true that audiences do actually understand premium currencies by and large right now, and when implementing currencies, these companies were following, you know, their best legal guidance, and now that guidance has changed. I guess just like how so many phones had like a bespoke charging cable until the rules just changed in the middle of the game. So now they've got to get used to these new rules.
Okay, but I gotta keep it about, dude. These fucking lightning cables were always absolute dog shit. I don't care what anybody says, dude. The lightning cables were fucking dreadful. Terrible. USB-C is just the way to go. So much better.
To get used to these
motherfuckers broke like bi-weekly.
And what'll sting is the impact on their bottom line. They're not wrong about the potential impacts of all of this. Now, big companies like Ubisoft can
In fact, you know what's crazy, dude? My iPhones, typically, I had to replace the charger once every few months, and a couple of times the actual lightning part came off in the charger hole quite a few times from different chargers. That shit's crazy, dude. That was for all the iPhones, obviously, but still.
Any legal challenges or damage from rebuilding their premium currency systems. They'll probably
You still have the original Nova? Are you sure you don't have a Nokia phone?
A whole lot to try and figure out ways around these principles. As for smaller companies, well, they may not find that so easy. But where things will be dramatic is the group's final warning, because it's the most threatening one. It's the idea that players in the EU may just be locked out of video games. They'd say with a game like Overwatch, right? That they would simply choose to geo-restrict access to the game rather than change their monetization model or to just continue the game as normal and
See, this is interesting because if this was the case as well, guys, what do you think Hoyo would do and Genshin and stuff like that? We've seen plenty of times where certain regions have had certain things happen, right? For example, optional skins being added, but mandatory skins for certain servers. Do y'all think that for EU servers, people's any accounts on EU, they just would change the rules but keep the rules for everybody else the same? Probably, right? I think it probably would only end up affecting EU, realistically. I think that would probably make the most sense. I don't know. Weird.
Risk EU loss.
Why what?
It could just be they look at the EU and think, you know what, we make enough from the States and other countries, we really don't need them. That being said, the EU population...
Why that? I don't understand the question.
From the States and other countries, we really don't need them. That being said, the EU population is kind of huge. Overall GDP is obviously a very, very flawed metric, but as an example, right, just Googling this here in 2024, the EU's nominal GDP was about 17.9 trillion and 1/6 of global nominal GDP, which is quite...
That's almost as much as Cantarella made.
Quite a lot of money, and a hell of a lot of that GDP globally will be in other countries like, say, China, where a lot of these companies will not be able to go in and directly monetize. That could actually mean that they will feel the need to change.
Yep.
And in a way, there are two wolves inside me who are fighting, right? I suppose one of them is the Pragmatic Wolf. The other one is the almost like the last vestiges of some sort of libertarian idealism that says, let the market decide. If the gamers do not like the bad practices, the gamers shall not partake in them, and the market will solve the problem.
It won't.
And I wish that was true.
Yeah,
but I feel there's almost a faux idealism in so much of that. Because the psychological hooks, the psychological triggers, they do actually work. We're in a world where you can very easily make, I think, some sound enough, philosophical arguments very much against regulation and all of that. And I totally get that. I'm fairly sympathetic towards that in many cases. But the thing is, we've also got to be pragmatic. And a part of that is being a bit humble about the human condition. And the fact of the matter is, these practices are not popular. People do not like them. Yet, people's behavior does continue. And these
people keep buying, people keep spending.
And as people who enjoy video games, we see that as these types of practices derive more and more revenue, they then...
It's like the thing is as well, it's because people enjoy it, dude, right? And it's because people know, for example, like gacha in general is inherently predatory. People have said this since day one. Most people understand that and most people agree with it. But does it stop us from using it? Rich people? Ugh. See, this is the problem, though. It's not just rich people. It's really, really not. And it's not just whales, guys. It's people that are buying Welkins. It's people that are doing the fucking $1 top-ups. People that are buying battle passes, loot boxes, everybody. Just because someone spends more doesn't mean they're inherently worse than you. It's everybody. It's even low spenders like me. 100%. It's people that are topping up one time compared to 100 times. Gambling is still fun, though. That's why. I agree with you to an extent. To an extent. Obviously, if you can afford it and you're not putting yourself in any bad situations, then yes. But yeah, it's like we all know gambling's bad. Gambling bad. This thing bad. But it's still fun and we still do it. And everybody's a bit of a hypocrite in that regard, right? For sure. But that's why shit never changes, dude.
Become what the companies focus on. And that is worse for the actual video games. Because I suppose in a way, how much of game industry revenue comes essentially from psychological manipulation and these various business strategies?
Probably quite a lot, considering even games like League of Legends probably do it with the skins, especially the fact that they dropped like the faker, like what was it, $500 skin or something. And the currency tactics in those games are probably pretty much the same and doing the same things, right?
That are designed to rake in revenue in a way that's not like really tied to the experience of a game.
And it's so weird as well because most of the games that are doing that are free-to-play games. They are given to the world for free, so that's why people justify it and make it out like it's a good thing. Can I keep it 100% real with y'all? I think putting like, for a free-to-play game, putting like very expensive items in and stuff, and gacha items, no matter the cost realistically, if you can earn that currency in the game at a very slow rate or unlock the skins via different means, and if it's purely cosmetic, I don't give a shit. Go ahead. I don't fucking care. If I can play the game and get the same experience as anyone else but look a little less cool doing it, I don't really care. Like, I'll wait 2 years and earn the currency myself just to get a really cool skin instead of just buying it for $100, you know?
We've just seen the share of that increase.
I think just cosmetic is very, very different. That's why Warframe is the go. I 100% agree. Warframe is a game that I spent a lot of time on years ago because you can literally farm for all of the prime suits, the frames. I think all of them anyway. And you can even sell them on the in-game marketplace to make money. That's just crazy, dude. I don't know many other games that are doing that. It's wild. You can make money playing Warframe.
And it's no wonder that as that is increased, the rest of us have become less and less satisfied with games.
Yeah.
So in a way, if this does hurt the revenue of a bunch of companies and unfortunately leads to a bunch of job losses because these types of practices are no longer viable, good riddance. Yeah. Good riddance, absolutely. Let the companies fail, let those jobs go down. How we run things should be a dialogue between the private and public sectors, and in a case like this, I think it's an example of the public sector, right? The people essentially saying, we actually do not like this practice. We don't want this to be the rules of the game. We want the rules of the game to change, to be more robust. And yeah, the market will, once it adapts to that, find a solution. And
yeah, that's
if the new rule set is a better rule set, then that should be a net good.
Marvel's one of the worst games for free skins. Well, yes, but also hear me out here, because here's the thing. Marvel Rivals is free, right? I'm pretty certain. I'm almost positive the only paid for things in Marvel Rivals are cosmetics. And I am totally fine with that, right? You don't have to pay to unlock the heroes, right? You just get them for free. I haven't played Rivals in months, sadly, because I just haven't had time to be able to play with friends and stuff. Yeah, you can earn skins, you can earn free-to-play currency and stuff to unlock those skins. Bro, if every obtainable item that you have to pay for is cosmetic, I think that's the best way to make these free-to-play games. They have to make money somehow, dude. They have to make money somehow. Would you rather that or see a fucking 30-second ad before every match? Keep it a buck. Come on. You know the answer. You'd rather just not buy a skin and let other people than have a 30-second unskippable ad before every match that you log into. Correct? Imagine in Genshin, dude, if you had to watch a 1 minute 30-second ad before every time you entered a domain. Imagine. Because that's like the only other thing I can imagine them doing if they had to remove monetization, right? How the fuck else are they going to make money? It doesn't make sense. You walk past fucking Mondstadt and the Knights of Favonius are now sponsored by Coca-Cola. Like, come on. What are they... I don't know, man.
Of course, none of this will matter if there's no enforcement. Because one country making a digital consumer policy often will find difficulty in enforcing it because you're just one little guy.
True.
Mr. Belgium, right? That's why even though Belgium has banned loot boxes, so many...
Yeah, Belgium did do that.
Many games simply just ignore that and still operate in the country. Like in World of Warcraft in the new raid, one of the bosses is basically a slot machine boss. We always have the joke that for the person on our team that's in Belgium, that boss just can't drop any loot. I don't know, there's an EU firewall or a Belgian firewall.
That's kind of funny.
That's a joke, but you get the point.
Yeah,
as much as many people have kind of went, oh, Belgium, you take him down. It hasn't really mattered because it's just Belgium, just one little guy. It's a bit different here, though. And that's because the EU is, 26 other countries.
Yeah,
also
EU's a big place, man.
In 2023, it was worth 25.7 billion euro in game revenues. That's a lot of revenues. And we know that their legislators are willing to take on the likes of Apple and Google when their rulings are being defied. They have done.
To be honest, American companies don't give a fuck about the EU. Well, they do when it's a large percentage of their income in this stuff. And if a law passes for the entirety of the EU, that it's going to massively negatively affect. Just because a lot of American citizens don't give a shit about the EU does not mean that American corporations don't. Let me make that very clear, and vice versa.
But more than that, the companies inside the EU are, part of a big global network, and that does mean that whenever USB-C cables become standardized in the EU, they then become standard.
Americans don't give a shit about X is never true. Yeah, a lot of Americans like to think that, and I get it. It's like we're so strong on our own, it doesn't matter, right? But it's just not the fucking case, man. It's just not the case.
Everywhere because of manufacturing limitations. I'm sure Apple would have loved to have continued just selling people lightning adapters in the States, but ultimately they seem to have saw the way the wind was blowing and made...
Because they care about what the EU is doing, man.
The big change to USB-C. No one wanted to have, of course, a whole factory just making EU-only phones.
Exactly.
And again, thinking about the impact that would have had on the whole ecosystem of manufacturing partners, blah, blah, blah. So you can see how with hardware, it does kind of make sense. We can see, though, software examples where it's not really the same thing. It's not like you can just go and get an emulator for your iPhone in America, but you can in the EU. So the question then is, will developers want to risk losing a large slice of that EU-derived money? Or will they simply have to ship a cut down and less exploitative version of their in-game monetization to European countries?
Yeah, I feel like that's what'll happen. I feel like for example, Genshin with the censorship for Asia servers or some Asia servers and stuff, I feel like games will just start giving like EU customers different versions, or not even different versions, but forced censorship and forced certain things. I feel like they're still going to try to, you know, sell their product to the EU market in the way that works legally. I don't think they're just going to stop.
If so, it puts them in a fun little dilemma where the American gamer may get a transparently worse deal than, say, the European gamer. And then you can say, well, compare your store to mine. My one is a bit more respectful, doesn't have as much FOMO, doesn't have as many tricksy bundles and things that basically feel like a scam. And that'll be a bad look. That's the dilemma that these companies face, and in a way, it's all thanks to a game about horses.
All thanks to horse girls, baby.
So, hero of the day, horse girls.
Yep.
I guess that's a thing. Okay, tell you what though, if you want another story, another big, grand, juicy story.
I'm so confused. All of these EU laws were about, they came about because a horse game was being very fucking scummy about their practices and stuff. You played it? Everybody thank Viv, guys. She is the reason the EU's gonna be getting better. Not getting fucking scammed.